I bet you ain't got it.
I didn't.
Just a minute.
I didn't think to change shirts, so I sure didn't think to grab
What?
anything else.
No.
Uh,
Matthew
13:44.
44 is where we'll start.
Okay.
And really it goes down through 50, but it's
It's
three different
yeah.
parables, but it goes through 50.
It's all them all go together.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we might as well go ahead and do all three of those together if you want to.
Because they about say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we ready? Welcome to Daryl's Little Corner. Tonight, you see Virginia's back with us. We'll be discussing the parables. And Virginia Jeter, I know you know she's from the Jeter family program. That's where they try and figure out where they've seen you before. That's where you see her. She hides in the corner at the Jeter family program. But we'll be discussing some of the parables that Jesus told when he was here. And let's dig in.
Okay. The ones we're going to do today, there's three that is right here in Matthew chapter 13, starting at verse 44. These three run mostly together, so we're just gonna read through all three of those to get started. It said, "Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto treasure hidden in a field, the which when a man hath found, he hideth, and for joy thereof goeth and selleth all that he hath, and buyeth that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a merchant man seeking goodly pearls, who, when he has found one pearl of great price, went and sold all that he had, and bought it. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like unto a net that was cast into the sea, and gathered of every kind, which when it was full, they drew it to shore, and sat down, and gathered the good into the vessel, but cast the bad away. So shall it be at the end of the world. The angels shall come forth, and sever the wicked from among the just, and shall cast them into the furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. And Jesus said unto them, Have ye understood all these things? And they say unto him, Yea, Lord." These three parables all go right hand in hand with each other.
Mm-hmm. They do.
They're all telling, it's like Jesus knew his audience. Part of them would understand the field, part of them would understand the merchant ship and the pearl, and part of them would understand the fishing with the nets. Uh-huh. And so he told each story so each type of person that was there listening at him could understand what he was talking about.
You know, what it amounts to is he's telling how wonderful heaven is.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it says that it's hidden in a field because we can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
And that anybody would sell everything they had to buy that field.
Uh-huh.
In other words, these things on earth, it's nothing next to heaven.
Yeah.
It's nothing. Mm-mm.
There's no earthly possessions you could have that would be worth missing heaven for.
Nothing. You know, very few people actually miss heaven over, well, I guess they do because they steal but, you know, more than that, it's people that hold grudges or fly mad and do something stupid while they're mad, or, you know, and it's just not, there is nothing, I don't care what somebody does that you don't like or what they do to you, there is nothing worth missing heaven.
No.
Nothing. It doesn't matter what it is. There's nothing worth missing our heaven for.
And it tells that, you know, at the end, you know, we live here, the just and the wicked live together, side by side. It's like the wheat and the tare parable. We live side by side, but in the end there will be a reckoning where the sheep will be put on one side and the
That's
goats
right.
are on the other. I
That's
mean,
right.
he gives us so many analogies of it, of how the end it's going to be, and it all boils down to the point that the just will enter into heaven and the unjust
Yes.
will be doomed to hell.
Yes.
And that's what these parables are trying to emphasize, that there's nothing down here in this sinful world. Because when God created this world, it was perfect. But once sin entered into it, it is a sinful world.
It is.
It is no longer perfect enough for heaven to be here on earth and for God to dwell here on earth.
Right.
That'll only happen in the end, when there's a new heaven and a new earth. And that reckoning has got to take place to where the just is separated from the unjust. And that's what he was trying to emphasize in these parables, that there's nothing on this sinful world that can compare or be worth missing heaven for. And there's nothing on this sinful world that is worth going to hell for.
That's right.
I mean, there's a lot of things I love about this world. There's a lot of things that are still good here.
He made all things good.
But nothing on this earth is worth me dying and going to hell for.
Now, God made all things good. It's us that mess it up and misuse it. If we'd use the things He gave us like it was meant to be used, all things are good.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, I've had this conversation with many a people that, yeah, there are sinful things out there. And, you'll have a parent come to you and say, why did God make drugs? Why did God make alcohol? But that's what
we took what He made good and we
and
misused
turned it bad. That's what. But when you're going through something like that, when you've got a child,
it's easier to blame
it's
God
easy,
than blame ourselves.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's easier to say, well, if God had never made a marijuana plant, there couldn't be marijuana. Well, there is a purpose for marijuana. Now, I don't know what that is. A lot of people say.
Oh, definitely, yeah. It's a painkiller. It's yeah, there
It
is.
it can be used
If
for
it was
good.
used properly, but people don't do that.
And that's the whole point. What God's made good, people turn it into bad,
That's
not
right.
God.
Well, back when we had babies, do you remember putting paregoric in their bottle for the colic? That's opium.
Yeah.
I read the ingredients. I about half it's opium. We put
Yeah.
10 drops to a bottle.
And
That's how we treated colic back in our day.
And it's just that God didn't write the recipe for meth.
No,
But He did make it. He did make the
and
ingredients.
God didn't tell us to get overdo these things and cause them to be bad stuff. We did that on our own.
Yes.
We did that ourselves. Now, He didn't have nothing to do with that.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of times people, when terrible things happen, especially, sometimes bad things just happen to good people. Yeah. And people will see when something terrible, some tragedy, they'll say, oh, God could have stopped that. Well, He could, and we don't know why He didn't. But we don't see over the hill. He does. We only see what's actually in front of us. We don't know why God allowed that to happen.
Uh-huh.
We got to have faith, and we got to trust in Him.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can't trust in God, we can't trust nothing.
Yeah, that's a lot of times when you pray and you pray and you pray for something, the Bible asks and it shall be given to you. Okay, but it's what you're praying for in God's will. Because God, like you said, God can see further down the road. He sees what will happen if He does it the way you want it done.
That's right.
So, I mean, it's a bitter pill to swallow, and I've had to swallow it a many a times. When you pray for God to do something and it doesn't get done just like you want it done. But it all goes back to, okay, He's God, I'm not.
That's right.
He knows better than I do
And
how and what
ahead.
needs to be done.
He knows what's ahead. We don't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a horrible thing, especially when we lose something. That'll knock you down. But truly, you don't know that we don't know what's growing inside of us.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what we've got, what we haven't got. We don't know what's going to happen down the road. They may have some horrible disease and not know it yet,
Mm-hmm.
and God spared them that.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's because we don't know. We just don't know. Mm-hmm. And God tells us what we have to know. He don't tell us everything.
Yeah.
He don't tell us everything.
Well, the Bible tells us our heart and mind wouldn't be able to comprehend and stand it.
That's right.
If He told us and explained it to us.
No. He tells us what we can. And I'm not going to make friends saying this. I know. I always get in trouble. He gives us everything that He can trust us with.
Mm-hmm.
We always said, oh, well, I wish I had this money or this fancy thing over there, or, oh, I want this new car, or He gives us all He can trust us with.
Uh-huh.
Instead of asking for things, we need to say, Lord, make me more trustworthy.
Mm-hmm.
Make my faith stronger in You.
Mm-hmm.
Let me be stronger where I can stand no matter what.
Yeah.
And I really believe that.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Yes, He gives us what He can trust us with.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, it's like the ongoing joke that me and Jerry have. I'd love to have $1 million, and if I need $1 million, God will give me $1 million. I just hadn't needed it yet.
Yeah.
There's a difference in wants and needs.
That's right. That's right.
And a lot of people don't understand that. Just because you want something does not mean you need it.
We'd probably give it away anyway.
Well,
It don't matter.
I would give it away, and I would probably spend it on a bunch of foolish stuff. I'm not going to sit here and lie.
I would too.
If I had $1 million just to do with whatever I wanted, yeah, I probably would give a lot of it away. But I would probably use a lot of it foolishly on stuff that's not necessary. I mean, I'm just that human. I think everybody is.
He gives us what we need and what He can trust us with.
That's all that we need. I mean.
But we live in this world with people who are not believers. Mm-hmm. And we live in this world with some people who are downright wicked.
Mm-hmm.
But it says at the end the angels will come forth and they'll weed it out. Mm-hmm. And that's a find telling you not to judge other folks.
Yep.
You just let them alone. Let them alone. And honey, you love the sinner, hate the sin. It don't mean you got to say you like what they do, but you care about them. Don't judge them. Just leave them alone. Leave them alone. Because at the end, it ain't going to matter. So many times they say, well, look how that person lives and see what they've got. Well, that's okay. Because look what we got ahead and they don't have. Mm-hmm. Don't look at what somebody else has got. Don't matter what they got. I mean, we're just biding our time. We're going to get to heaven. We're going to have a place in the mansion. We're going to walk on streets that are so gold that they look like glass. We're going to have a wall around to keep everything that's trouble away from us, that's made out of rocks that are so precious and jewels that I can't even spell the name. I sure can't say them. I mean, we're going to have it all.
Mm-hmm. And it's...
And they're going to wish for an air conditioner.
They're going to wish for just a drop of water.
Yes.
Just
a whole
one
air
drop of
conditioner.
water.
If I'm going to wish, I'd wish big. I'd want a whole air conditioner. But, you know what I'm saying? This is the nicest way I've seen it put. But the angels are going to come forward, and they're going to divide it out.
Mm-hmm.
And those that are, just right with God are going to go up, and them that are not, that's how it is. It's just how it is. Mm-hmm. And, it's a hard thing. And people say, well, my church says this, my church. We all believe you got to live for God if you're going to go to heaven. Mm-hmm. All the churches believe that.
Yeah.
I don't know of any church that don't believe you got to live right to go to heaven. We all got a different way of getting there, but there's just one God. There ain't but one.
That's it.
There's God the Father, there's Jesus, the Son, and there's the Holy Ghost.
Exactly.
Now, some of them say Spirit. That's okay. Same thing. Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
We're not doing divisions here. We're not doing denomination.
No.
Because we all worship the same God.
And what did Jesus say? He said, if they're for me, leave them alone.
That's right.
I mean, so I know there's lots of denominations and lots of different ways people think out there. But if you're living for Jesus, that's all that matters.
Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you what, now, myself, I'll tell you about me. I'm Father, Son, Holy Ghost. I got a lot of friends that are Jesus' name. And if I get to heaven and I find out they're right and I was wrong, I'm staying. I ain't leaving. That's it. I ain't leaving. And I've talked to a lot of them, and they say the same thing. They say, I think I'm right, but now if I'm not, I'm staying too, Daryl. We ain't leaving. I don't care. We fall out over this little nitpicky stuff.
As long as Jesus is who you are serving, all the other stuff is just window dressing.
That's right. It's just stuff.
I mean, I can remember, now, I'm Methodist and have been Methodist since birth, I guess, because that's the church I was brought up in. That's how I was raised. Methodist people believe that you can either be dunked or sprinkled to be baptized.
Yes.
Okay. All I know is you got to be baptized. Well, you don't really.
There was a guy on the cross that didn't get baptized.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's some churches out there believe you have to be baptized.
Yeah, that's okay.
And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with baptism. There's nothing wrong with how you get baptized. As long as it says that the baptism is a profession of your faith. It is just an outward showing of what you believe on the inside.
You do.
So if you're uncomfortable with being dunked underwater and you want to be sprinkled, I see nothing wrong with that.
You do what you believe brings you closer to God. Mm-hmm. Whether that's how you look, how you act, how you're baptized, how you attend service. You do what brings you closer to God. I can't live it for you, and you can't live it for me. Mm-hmm. I can't make your decisions. You can't make mine. You don't have to believe just like I do. We just all have to worship that same God. Same God, that's it. Because it's not like when we get to heaven, there's not going to be little cubicles and say, well, this group's here and that group's there.
No.
We're all going to be sitting together, and we best learn how to act now. Ain't going to be no arguing up there.
And there shouldn't be any down here.
No, it shouldn't.
It should not be, because, if you worship God different than I worship God, but we're both still worshiping the same God.
That's right.
Why
It
should
don't
either
matter.
one of us be offended how the other one does it?
It don't matter.
And that's what we need to get in our mindset. Okay, you may worship God like this, and I may worship God like this, but we're both still worshiping the same God. So why should it bother me if you do it this way
That's
and I
right.
do it that way?
That's
Because
right.
the Bible tells us that there's
That's
one
right.
way to heaven, and that is Jesus.
That's right.
And so as long as we are both serving Jesus and we are both going
That's where it's
toward
at.
Jesus and we are both headed that way, it don't matter what road you take. You know, there's a lot of ways to get to different places. I mean, okay, so we're on the outskirts of Memphis. What, we're 60, 70 miles from Memphis. I know two main ways to get there. Go up, hit 72 and go across. Go down and hit 78 and go across. But that's not the only two ways. There's
That's
even
right.
more ways than that to get
That's right.
there. But you still end up in the same place. You still end up in the same town. So however you get there, however you decide that is the place that is the most precious thing that you would give everything up you own to get there, whatever path you take to get there, as long as it's headed toward Jesus, it doesn't matter.
And you know, we fall out over the silliest little stuff. Like, the young people like different music than we do. My granddaughter says, "Oh, Grandma, you know your music gives me a headache." I said, "Don't you worry, you know yours gives me a headache too." But I mean, we don't have to like the same music. We just have to love the same God.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with it. You know, we fall out over stuff that really don't matter.
It really
just
does.
don't matter.
As long as you're going toward Jesus, it does not matter.
That's right.
I mean, like you said, you know, a lot of the younger folks like the contemporary gospel.
They do.
That,
I don't know why,
they like
but they
that.
do.
I like some of it.
I
Now,
like the
some
Southern
of it.
gospel.
Some of it I'm not real crazy about, but a lot of it I like too. But then again, I like the old Southern gospel music like we always have.
I like the old church hymns, and nobody ever sings that anymore. I reckon that means I'm done old and outdated. I do. I like the old church hymns. And, I mean, but it doesn't, I mean, I'll go where I'm comfortable. You go where you're comfortable. And you just worship God. That's all. Worship God.
I can't understand anybody ever being so committed to a denomination that they would think that little group is the only one going to be in heaven.
Oh, a lot of us do.
Because to me, all Christians are going to be in heaven. I don't care what denomination you worship under.
I don't think there's as much of that now as it used to be. Long time ago it was, but I don't think there's as much of it now. I think the churches are more accepting of each other than they used to be. I'm not saying they work together well, but we're a lot better than we were, say, 40 or 50 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of people think their way is the only way. And if you think that, that's okay. It's okay. No.
Just don't be surprised when you see me there.
Just scoot over. Just scoot over when they get there. Where are we at?
Okay. Well, I guess that about covers those three really good. I mean, those three are really self-explanatory.
They are.
Jesus is just telling everyone that he was speaking to that heaven is worth everything you can give up down here.
It's worth it all.
Yeah.
And then he went on to say that it would be divided at the last. And that's really...
Well,
that's
the
really
next
all
one
it
is
said.
going to be right below that.
Okay.
in chapter 13, verse 52. So it just skips ahead. It says, Then said he unto them, Therefore every scribe which is instructed unto the kingdom of heaven is like unto a man that is a householder, which bringeth forth out of his treasure things new and old. And really, that one, we should have just went ahead and added that one to the other one, because it's a householder which bringeth forth out of his treasures things new and old. There's, and just like we were talking, as the generations go, things change, but it doesn't make them necessarily wrong. Just because something's new does not mean it's totally wrong.
That's right.
And just because something's old does not mean it's totally outdated. Because there is a combining of them that they can coexist. You can have the new and old and be on the same pathway and be going toward the same goals, even though it's new and old mixed together. So,
as we get older, we're not real changeable.
Yeah.
My granddaughter tells me, she'll say, Grandma, it's a different day and age now. and of course, when they try to boss me, I'll say, look, I can get this age by not knowing what I want to do.
Now, if you, I like to watch older movies and older things. If you want to see a difference between old and new, watch a TV program that was put out in the 70s or 80s and even the 90s, and then watch a TV program basically based around the same thing that's put out nowadays. And that will show you.
I watch any new stuff.
But even I'm talking like, maybe Christian stuff. Okay, I liked 7-7.
Oh, I do too.
I love 7-7, but it was put out in the 90s. And I can sit and watch that, and I can see where, even though that was, it was about a pastor and his wife and 5 kids, and it had morals to most of the program. Yeah, it was a really good family show. And you watch a really good family show today, you see, but you can see the differences.
Yeah.
We have cell phones and internet, and there's so much more that we're dealing with today than just 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And so you can see, but the old and new can mesh together if it's done for the right reasons. If you're going toward the same path. Yeah, they didn't have cell phones and internet, and that stuff can be very wicked. I'll be the first one to say you can get into some very wicked stuff on a cell phone or the internet. But yet, even though it's something new, and not as new now as it used to be, but I'm talking from say the 90s to the 2000s.
I don't know. I remember when everybody ran out and bought CDs and replaced their tapes, and CDs were going to last forever, and now nobody buys CDs.
No, we get it off the internet. We just download it on our phones or on our tablets or on our computers, and we have. That's what I'm saying. Even though there's wicked and bad stuff on there, you can use it for good.
I hadn't turned a tape player on in years. I just turn on YouTube. I hear all the music I want to. I mean, we don't. I remember when everything was tape players, and then it was CDs, and then it was that MP, whatever it was.
MP3 players.
But we progress so quickly, so terribly quickly. Yeah, you're looking at new and old. I mean, it's a lot of changes,
But they're still good in it.
Yeah, it is.
Like you said, you can
It
get on YouTube and you can listen to gospel music 24/7
I
and
listen to a lot of
never
preaching
have
on
to
there.
listen to the exact same song.
A lot of preaching
Yeah.
on there. A lot
There's
of good
lots of
preaching, a lot of
preaching.
good Bible studies, and there's a lot of garbage too.
And that's and it's like these fishermen when they cast their net out there and they,
Yes.
you know, we've got it all flooding in on our phones and our internets now. Now we've got to be the ones that say, okay, this is all right,
And
and
that's
we're going
not.
to leave this stuff alone. And that's, you know,
And all that glitters is not gold, honey.
you may wish it was, but it's
Yes,
not.
that's right.
So since we should have added that one along with the others, what is the next one? The lost sheep. It goes over to chapter 18. Let's turn over to chapter 18. Yeah, my memory's short. I can't remember
Me
12
too.
through 14.
Just done that to make me feel better, I know.
Okay, Matthew chapter 18, verse 12 through 14, it says, How think ye, if a man have 100 sheep, and one of them be gone astray, doth he not leave the 99 and goeth into the mountains, and seek that which is gone astray? And if so be that he findeth it, verily I say unto you, he rejoiceth more of that sheep than of the 99 which he went not astray. Even so it is not the will of your Father which is in heaven that one of these little ones should perish.
I don't think that's as easy to understand today as it was years ago.
Yeah.
Because you see people like if you've ever worked at a convenience store or that has a drive-through, people come through, they drop their change, and if they ain't gonna lean down there and pick it up, they just drive away. And this is saying, of course, they're considering sheep, but it's the same thing. It's what they possessed. And if they lost a little one, they'd go get it. And, you know, at this day and age, I'm not sure we would. And we wouldn't think that little lost sheep was important unless we was that sheep. If we're that one that got lost, we want him to come get us. But a shepherd, that's what he does. If he could look out over that herd or flock and know when one's missing. And he'll get out and he'll hunt all night long to find that little sheep.
Yeah.
And that's where Jesus says he'll come find us. He will. I really believe that once that you get right with God, if you stray, I believe that he'll come after you. He'll put things in your path to make you want to come back. That'll make you want the things of God, make you realize that you've messed up. I really believe that. I believe he still comes after that lost sheep.
Yes, he's still out trying to gather all those sheep to him, because the end of the parable, it said, it's like the Father in heaven.
Yes.
He does not want one of these sheep. And I know, okay, people might not like being compared to livestock, but
I don't know. That's what Jesus compared us to.
that's what he's doing here. We're the sheep in that story. We're his flock in that story. Humankind, all men are his flock. And God doesn't want anyone to perish. A lot of people can't understand that and don't understand that.
Right.
You know, you look at people worshiping other gods, and you think, well, you know, we worship the true God, they're worshiping a different God. But do you realize that our true God wants them?
Oh, yeah.
He
Yeah.
wants them to come to the realization that they're not worshiping the true God, that He is the one and true God,
They're still
and
after
that they need it. There's not a soul on this earth that God does not want to bring into the fold.
Tell you what's terrible. Christianity's not fair. No, man, it's not fair.
Not fair.
If somebody does something terrible to you, then you got to forgive them. And if you hold that grudge and you don't forgive them, and they get right with God, they'll go to heaven, you'll go to hell. Now, what's fair about that?
Because
But it's how it
they-
is. Because Jesus loves every single soul.
Exactly.
He loves you. He loves them too. Even when they're doing stupid stuff. You know, He loved me when I did stupid stuff. But sometimes I still do stupid stuff. But He loved me when I did worser stuff. Way back. He loved me before when I didn't even like me. Jesus loved me. And He came after me. And He sent people and to witness to me. And he put me in a situation where I'd realized that He was real. Where I'd realized who Jesus was and what I was missing. And He went after me just like that lost sheep. And even if that person, I don't care if it is your worst enemy, you say, I can't help it, Daryl, I can't stand them, I can't stand. Better get over it, baby. You better get over it. Because if they get right with God, and you're still carrying around this grudge or this hatred or this, well, sometimes it's indifference. Well, I don't hate them. I'm just going to ignore them. I've done that. I'm good at that. It won't wash. It just won't wash. The Bible says God is love. He's after that lost sheep. He was after you when you was the lost sheep, and now He's after them. And He's probably trying to get you to let Him use you to get them. That's hard too.
Yeah.
Now that's when it's hard.
That would be hard.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody did something mean to me, I don't want to come tell them about my Jesus. I want to slap them. But that ain't the way it is.
Yeah.
That ain't the way it is. You've got to have the love of God in you for every person. No matter how mean they are, no matter how much that you don't like what they do, you love the person. And they are that little lost sheep that Jesus is after, and you might be the one He's going to use to get them in. But it sure is tough.
The way I have always looked at this, and the way it become clear to me is, look back over history. You know me, I'm a history buff. There have been some horrible people in history.
It has.
From serial killers to men that start wars over nothing to just dictators, and they're horrible people.
ISIS.
I mean, yes,
ISIS,
that's one
that's
group.
lately.
Yeah,
Everybody
that's,
knows about ISIS. I mean,
you know, the Taliban and ISIS
Yes.
was right. Before that, you had the Germans and before that, you had, you had the Mongolia. I mean, that's going way back to the,
yes.
but you have had horrible people
Yes.
all throughout history. Think of the worst person that you know. All throughout history, the most horrific person you can think of. To me, and I know it may be sensitive to you, but to me, the most horrific person I could ever think of was Hitler.
Yeah.
That was the most horrific person I could think of, because I grew up in that time right after the well, it wasn't right after World War II, but
It was still taught.
but it was still big, and it was still taught,
fresh.
and there was still a lot of the World War II veterans around, and the most horrific person I could picture in my mind was Hitler. And I had to come to the realization that if Hitler had went to God and truly repented of everything he had done, he would be walking those streets of gold right now.
And if I held a grudge against him, I wouldn't.
And if I could not come to that realization and realize that God loved him as much as he loved me,
I like little kids says, "Mommy, it's not fair."
it's not fair.
It's not fair, but that's how it is. A lot of things are not fair.
Yeah.
And some things are horrible, and they're horribly. Now like Hitler, a whole people.
Uh-huh.
But if
he tried to extinguish
if somebody came
whole
against you and say did something to your child, easier if they do it to you.
See, yeah, it's a lot easier if they do it to me than they do it to my child, because
Yes.
the devil got my number on that a long time ago.
Me too.
Every time he wants to hit me, it's somehow to do with one of my kids.
Yes, but you've got to forgive, and you've got to love.
It's not, and it's that makes it even harder when it becomes personal to you.
The best thing to do is right at the first, start praying. It is. First words out of your mouth, pray for them. Because that's what because you got to do it.
And you've got to realize that God is that shepherd out looking for that lost sheep. And that person, if they have hurt you, more than likely has done something wrong. And so they're probably not in good standing with God right now.
We'll see people. Well, I visit other churches a bit. You visit, because we don't have service at night. And you go to another church and you see somebody that you knew way back when, and they did whatever, and you're sitting there thinking, you're thinking about years ago. They done got right with God. You better get it on the blood. Whatever it was, it's over. Let it be in the past. We are quick to judge. It's our nature. And we have to not do that. It says, judge not, you be not judged.
Yeah.
We, instead of judging
I can't judge somebody else because I don't want them judging me.
Me too. Me too.
I mean,
and whatever they did 40 years ago, it's over. Who cares?
Well, I'm not going to say I'm the most perfect person that's walking this earth, and I'm not going to say I don't make mistakes and I don't mess up, but I try to live my life by the golden rule. I try to do to everyone else what I would want done to me.
Really, when you think about it, most of us, probably not you, but most of us were raised to, we were told, well, if you go to school and somebody hits you, you hit them back. You stand up for yourself.
That was.
And we're so busy hitting back that we could miss heaven. We don't need to be hitting back. And no, God don't expect you to be a floor mat. But I'll tell you what, He don't expect you to be the avenger either. You've got to get these things on the blood. You've got to get it, or they'll be right with God and you won't.
And that was a really hard thing for when I was raising kids, because I would try to teach them. I don't stand for fighting. There's no fighting. Well, then you've got this one over here telling them, well, you defend yourself. You take up for yourself.
Yes.
And here I am trying to teach these kids that there's a right and wrong way of handling stuff. You can't defend and take up for yourself without fighting, without hitting and getting into fights and stuff. There's always a way to take care of it.
It's hard because you're in this world as a Christian that loves God, and you're trying to give the love of God, and you're in a world with people that are not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's hard. It's hard to know what to do and when to do it. It's hard, but you just can't hold grudges. You just can't. You can't be the avenger.
Well, it was.
And sometimes we don't realize we're doing it.
Well, it was like just here recently. I explained to you how we tried to move Allison in. We couldn't that day because of some things wrong with her room. Well, when I looked at what they were expecting my child to live in, yeah, I saw red. I was mad as all get out. But the good Lord knew He put her up on the second floor. So I had from the second floor to when I got down to that office to get a hold of myself
Yeah.
so I could conduct myself in the way God would be pleased.
We have to leave
I
a
could
Christian
have-
witness everywhere we go.
Because, I mean, I could have walked in there and I could have pitched a fit and cussed a blue streak and just had me a good old time just blessing these folks out for what they were trying to put my child in. But like I said, God put her up on the second floor for a reason, because it give me time to realize, yeah, you can do this, but you know how you're supposed to handle this. And you know if you go in there and handle it like you wanted to handle it a while ago when you looked at it versus how you know you're supposed to handle it according to God's Word, reckon what's going to get you what you want. And I knew right away. I went in there. I wasn't a doormat. I did not let them walk all over me, but I did not go in there and do something I would have been ashamed of doing in front of Jesus.
Try not to embarrass my Lord.
Because like Allison says, why lie to him? He knows it anyway.
Right. You're right.
Why bother lying to him? He knows it anyway.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, I mean, that's my whole point. And sometimes it takes maybe from the second floor to the bottom of the stairs to get a hold of yourself and realize, okay, I've got to do this right. I want these people to understand that even though I don't like what's going on, I can still be a decent human being and still hold a civil conversation.
People don't have patience with people. Anybody that's on Facebook knows it. Especially, they'll go through these fast food places and maybe they get your order wrong or the food's not just like it ought to be, and and what you have to think about, one day that might be your grandchild. Once it was your son.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And how would you want somebody to treat your child or your grandchild? And everybody makes mistakes. One time I bought a cheeseburger for Shirley and got it to the hospital where he was. It was just a bun.
They forgot to put the cheeseburger in the middle, huh?
We just threw it away. It wasn't a big deal. And I remember when I had volunteers when I worked for the hospice, I'd take them to lunch, and we just got to where I'd say, look, whatever they give us, let's just eat it. Let's not worry them. Let's just eat it, because, someday that might be my grandchild, and I'd want somebody to be kind to my child or my grandchild. I'd want them to be kind to them. Sometimes we're carnal people, and sometimes we're kind of selfish.
Yeah.
We just want things our own way.
We want it our way, when we want it,
That's
how
right.
we want it, and where we want it.
That's right.
And
that's really sad.
Yeah.
It really is. That's sad. But that's the way it is. And I didn't realize it so much till I got to noticing on Facebook. Everybody's putting on there and that. And when they get through posting all this stuff about these restaurants, and they say, oh, no, so-and-so's closing, and what, we need the business here. Well, they tore them apart.
That's another thing the Internet's good at.
It is.
Folks can sit behind a screen and type and not have to look. It's different when you're looking somebody in the eye in
That's
trying to
right.
say this stuff than it is for you sitting in the comfort of your own home typing out stuff and not. And that's what I've always
That's
tried to
right.
tell my kids. If you won't say it to them in person, you got no business saying it to them
Mhm.
online.
But when you go through the drive-through, look in your bag, make sure your stuff's what it's supposed to be. If it's not, just drive right back around the building and say, "Hon, you missed this." Talk nice,
Hmm.
you know, and then just keep it to
You
yourself.
remember that old saying that I can't remember if it was my grandmother or my great grandmother. You can catch a whole lot more flies with honey than you can
That's right.
vinegar.
That's right. And you leave a lot better taste in their mouth. And one day, that child which most of them are children,
Uh-huh.
that child that messed up your order might be looking for Jesus, and you might be the one to tell them.
Hmm.
But if you're ugly to them, they ain't gonna listen to you.
No.
They're not
No.
interested in. That's something I never understood. How people can just show off and talk ugly and carry on, and then they want to invite you to their church. And it's like, no, I don't think so.
Not if that's how you act in your church. I
Yeah.
don't think so.
I mean, I know one lady in particular. She'd just tell me off every time I seen her, and I mean, she was harsh talking to me all the time. And then when I'd start to leave, she said, "You know, we're having church Sunday," and I'm like, "Good. I'm glad you are." If we want to be a witness for God, we got to act like one.
Yeah. At all times.
That's right.
I
Wherever
mean,
you're at, you got to leave a Christian
because it's been
witness.
said so many times, sometimes your life is the only Bible that some people
That's
will
right.
ever read.
That's right.
So you have to realize what you're putting out there is not only representing you, it's representing what you say you are.
That's right.
Are you still that lost sheep that Jesus is out looking for, or are you one of the 99 that he trusted to leave behind to go look for that one and trust you to act right while he's looking for that
That's
other one?
right. You know what Christian means, don't you?
Yeah.
It means Christ-like. And some of us, if you stand us up next to Jesus, it ain't a good picture. But we're supposed to try to act like Jesus. They used to have these neat little bracelets. I don't know why maybe it was a fad that went out. It needs to come back. It would say, WWJD, what would Jesus do?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we need to do. I mean, we're supposed to pattern ourselves after him.
Yeah.
And, of course, all of us come up short, but some of us come up real short. Real short.
And those
we
are
gotta
those
work on
lost
that.
sheep he's out there
That's
looking
right.
for.
That's right.
And we have to realize that our prejudices and our beliefs
It
are
was
nothing
drummed into
compared
us.
is nothing compared to his.
That's right.
I mean, we don't hold a light to his. So what we think is right and what we think should be the way things should be done, if it doesn't line up with Jesus' way of thinking, then we're wrong.
That's right. That's right.
We can't. I mean, you have to get to be a Christian. You got to realize that there's gonna be times you're gonna just have to say, "Lord, I was wrong.
You're right. You're right.
I was totally wrong. I missed the mark, and I am so glad you're here to put me back on the right
That's
path."
right. Lord, forgive me for I failed you.
And that's all we can do, because
Yes.
no human is going to be able to live a perfect enough life to make it to heaven, or Jesus wouldn't have had to come.
That's right. We live through his grace, his mercy.
And every time I have to say, "Lord, I missed it, I'm wrong," it's just one more time that Jesus' blood has covered up my mistakes. Not. Mm,
How about, Lord? It's not like this is the first time I've messed this certain thing up.
I'm sure he's had a lot of repeat offenders.
All right, that's me. That's me.
I know he has with me.
And we're just trying to get where we need to go.
Hmm.
We're trying to be what we need to be. We need to walk in the Spirit and stay close to Jesus. And we need to learn to forgive and not be looking for something wrong with it. Sometimes we don't realize that we're doing it till we've done it. It falls out your mouth and then it goes through your brain. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've done that. I've done that.
Yeah.
Like I say, it's easier if it's me. I'm like Virginia, you know, come slap me, I'll live, but don't be slapping my kid, you know. It's different when it's your child or your grandchild.
Yeah.
And it's hard to, you know, it's hard to hold ourselves together when it's our family.
Yeah, well, like I said, the devil learned
But we
early
have
on that, you know, that's the way to get me to mess up the quickest. But,
And sickness will do it too.
yeah.
Yeah. I remember when my first husband went on dialysis, we went in the dialysis center the first time, and we talked about before we got out of the car that he said when we leave this world, which we knew when we were through there we were done. When we leave this world, we want to leave a Christian witness there. They're not going to say that thank God that awful guy's gone. You know, it's going to be he must have been a Christian.
Yeah.
And we were very careful what we, you know, how we reacted. That's the problem. We do something stupid before we realize we did it.
Yeah. Well, I know when I leave this world, I don't want anybody thinking or saying, you know, that, you know, there walked the perfect woman, because I'm not.
We're not.
Yeah, I mean, nobody will ever be. There's no perfect.
Well, nobody say, "Oh, thank God that awful person's gone." Either.
Yeah. All I want people to remember is that I tried to serve Jesus the best I could. With all my mistakes, with all the times I'm that lost sheep he's out having to look for, I want them to be able to say, yeah, she messed up some, but she tried her best to live for God.
And Lord, if I mess up and wander off, send somebody after me. Yes, yes. Because I definitely want to make heaven. And you know, some terrible things happen in this world that causes people to wander off. It does. Before they realize they've done it, they've wandered off. And I mean, you can tell yourself you're right. And you know, well, anybody to understand, you see what happened, and you know, or well, that's good enough for them, or you know, we got all kind of excuses we use.
Oh well,
but that don't.
I can honestly say that I've seen people that, you know, I can say I understand why you done that. I would understand why you would feel that way, why you would do that way, why you would handle that situation that way. I understand why you done it, but just because I understand why you done it doesn't mean it's right.
That's right. And if you're not that way, you better watch for that. I remember one time I said something that was really stupid, and you know, Lord will just whoop you upside one side and down the other. And I went to my pastor, and I told him about it, and I was embarrassed. I guess I just kept big mouth shut. But I really, it bothered me. And he said, well, sis, you didn't mean to, did you? Well, God understands. I changed churches. I did.
Yeah.
I changed churches on account of it. I don't need somebody that says, oh, God understands. I need somebody to call sin, you know. Tony says we are out of time. I don't know why he does that to us. We appreciate you tuning in. This is Daryl in Virginia discussing the parables on Daryl's Little Corner. Tune in next Saturday night for the Jeter Family Program at 7 o'clock. And tune us back in again next Monday at 7 for Daryl's Little Corner. May God bless.